What's up, everyone? Welcome to Cracka. This is season 2, episode 16 already. Just flies by. Damn. Got quite a review I'm going to go over with you. Some shows, some books, some good times. Before I do, I've been watching, I watched all of Hero Hunter 81's key issue videos, which were really cool. It's got some very impressive stuff there. But I had made a comment that I was going to show you what the inside of the white Superman looks like. Sounds really messed up, but this issue was the rebirth of Superman when he was brought back to life, or whatever you want to call it. And I think this is the collector's edition, yeah, whatever it is. But this is what it looks like without the white. So this is this, but it's kind of cool. Like I said, it's like a ghost cover. It's just really cool looking. I mean, you really can't tell on the camera, but it's like this transparent see-through thing, and then of course when you open it up, Superman's actually grabbing his father's hand. But very, very cool. And then this is the second printing of that, which was interesting. I thought it was another book entirely. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I didn't have that one. I thought it was like a whole different thing. And I'm like, I grabbed them. I'm like, oh crap, same one. But whatever. It's funny, I actually have, like everybody else, I have quite a few of these and quite a few of the death issues. I know everyone, especially when I was a kid, I was in junior high when it came out, when he died. And it was crazy because it was all over the news, because it's like, a major character getting dropped, killed off, and then, my entire school, even people who weren't comic book fans, knew. Obviously people know who Superman is, and they were like, oh my god, they killed Superman. And I just remember the day that it came out, I was just going nuts because I was like stuck in school, and I told my mom, I was like, it comes out today. I was like, I'm gonna miss it. I'm not gonna get it. Even though my junior high was about maybe like a 10-15 minute walk from the comic book store, but the comic book store to my house was like a good like 20 or 30 minute walk, and every day in junior high I would always run out of junior high and run straight to the comic book store. And I told my mom, I was like, there's no way we're going to get it. I was like, it's going to be gone. This is the death issue I'm talking about, obviously, like I said. And it was just nuts. Like, the whole school was just constantly talking about it. And friends of mine were like, oh, we can't wait to go get it. And I used my lunch money to call my mother again. And she was like, you have to get this. You have to show up there and get it. And she went to the comic book store. And, of course, they knew her because they knew me, how crazy I am. And they were only allowed to buy one issue. So I told my mother, I was like, this thing's going to be huge, which I didn't know. And I was like, it's gonna, it's the death of Superman. It's gonna be one of those books that's gonna be worth a fortune down the line. You gotta get it. I was like, they're only letting you have one. And I had my, like I said, my lunch money saved for a while, so I was gonna run right after school, run straight to the comic book store and try to get my own. And I had no idea my mother picked up one, even though I told her, I was like, gotta pick up one. She's like, I'm not gonna be able to make it there. You'll have to get your own. And I ran there and got one, because. Luckily, like I said, they knew me there, and Trung, the manager, he put one aside for me. He's like, oh, God, don't worry about it. I'm like, oh, yeah. It's one of the greatest junior high moments. Just freedom and just, like, jetting. Like, I never ran so fast in my life trying to get this comic. And then when I got home, my mom had one. She's like, I got one. I'm like, oh, my God. And then I was like, all right, cool. I was like, I can open one and, read it. And the other one I'll keep, as is. And then we went to it was like I guess like a food store kind of thing, but it wasn't like a major chain. It was like one of those mom and pop food stores. And in the back they had a little comic book store guy that was kind of renting out like a little bit of space, and he was selling the Death of Superman. And I was like, we should get another one, just we could sell it. And my mom was like, all right, yeah. So we picked up another one for the regular price, and then 2 weeks later it was quadrupled. We went back into the thing to try to get another one, and the guy wanted like $500-600 for it, and I was like, wow. I was like, I told you I was done. I was like, I told you. And smart. I actually wound up selling one to a comic book store that was looking for them, and I sold it for $250, which I wanted $500, but I knew no way in hell I was getting that, and I wound up selling $250, so I was pleased. And then as I was leaving the comic book store, we found a stationery store that had them. The guy had no idea. I bought another one for a cover price. I was like, oh man, but it was cool. So I was smart. I sold a death issue before it went into the fact that you can get them for like 50 cents now. Sometimes they just give them away to you. Same thing with the Rebirth issue. I bought a lot of these, and I sold a couple when it was at its height. So I kind of lucked out, but I actually have to get another one of these. I don't know if I have any more. I think I have one put away, and obviously I have one open. But this thing I actually had on my wall, and it got kind of wrecked. But anyway. So Hero Hunter 81, that's what the inside of the white Superman book looks like, which is Avengers of Superman number 500. It's a see-through ghost kind of cover. It's pretty cool, though. Before I get into another review, I'm going to do a review on some shows here. Young Justice, I've been watching that since it came back on. It's been really cool, very interesting. I enjoy that cartoon. I was actually shocked. I went to Target yesterday, and they actually have the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Season 1 on DVD. I was like, wow, it's about time. But anyway, also yesterday I watched Ultimate Spider-Man with the Rhino, which was really cool. They kind of made him Hulkish, which he's not exactly the Rhino from like Amazing Spider-Man, where it's O'Hearn, I think his name, not O'Hearn. I think that was it, O'Hare, I don't know, whatever his name was. But I think they switched the guy because now he's like a geek in Ultimate Spider-Man, and he takes this mutagen, that's what I'm going to call it, mutagen, just like the Ninja Turtles, and turns into the Rhino whenever he jabs himself like the Lizard, and goes after Flash Thompson. But it was cool because he actually, I mean, granted, he looked like a Rhino, but like the Ultimate version of Rhino. But he was able to cut Power Man, which was pretty cool. It was very interesting. It's a good show. I enjoy it. A lot of people don't like it. I think it's pretty cool. I mean, it's the closest thing to the old Spider-Man, I guess, if that makes any sense. Cartoon. Even though he talks to himself, in camera and stuff like that, but I like it. I thought it's cool. But anyway, let's hope I can remember all these freaking things. I got a chance. I went a little Marvel crazy and read all the Marvel new issues that I had gotten. I kind of put DC to the side. I figured I'd get the Marvel done and go from there. FF number 3. Excuse me, which obviously this is Human Torch from the future. And he comes back and it's crazy. He's missing he's missing his left eye, he's missing his left arm and his left foot. And he's got like a robot metal hand and metal leg, and I don't think he had an eye though. I think he even had a metal eye. But anyway, he says that they asked him, who are you? And he's like, I'm Johnny Storm, or John Storm, and the Fantastic Four are dead, and they were killed in the space-time continuum. Basically, Doctor Doom teams up with Kang and Annihilus, and they combine into one creature and just wipe out the Fantastic Four. And pretty interesting book. Like I said, it's kind of it doesn't have like a serious tone, but then towards the end it kind of did, because Ant-Man decides that he wants to take out Doom forever, just wipe him off the face of the earth. And I guess he thinks that if he does that, they won't come back to kill the Fantastic Four in the future or whatever it is, because this Human Torch was saying that he's going to find a way to come through the rift and kill everybody and all that stuff. But it was a good book. I'm actually enjoying this series. I didn't think I was gonna. Like so the first issue, I was like, and then I was like, that's not bad. I kept reading it. I read it like twice. I'm like, oh, not bad. Yeah. Excuse me. And it was cool. Moving on. This was an interesting one. Wolverine and the XMen number 24, which they call it a date night book. Excuse me. Again. But this was kind of crazy. This basically, I actually liked it. I thought it was interesting. Like Wolverine, you see him pull up to a bar with like an arrow sticking out of his back, and he's got like all these gunshot wounds everywhere, like little holes. And he walks into the bar and he's like, I need a lot of beers. And the bartender goes, I can't do that. He's like, what are you talking about? And there's like this floating purplish orb, and he's like, oh, that Rachel girl left you a message, and it opens up and like kind of like a Howler message from Harry Potter, and says, don't even think about it, get back to the school. And he shows up and winds up that he finds out he's going to be a babysitter because everyone's going out on dates and all this crap. And Iceman goes on a date with Shadowcat, and they're kind of like, I don't want to really be here or whatever. Then Iceman's like, oh, I hear sirens, let's go, whatever. And Rachel shows up, mentally and says, relax, have your date, stop worrying about everything. And she winds up they got bored or something like that, and she's like, "Oh, do you want to go swimming?" He's like, "Yeah," and she winds up just phasing them through the ground, and they wind up in a desert, and Iceman ices up and gives the people in the desert a giant ice cube. He's like, "Yeah, here you go, take it." He's like, "It's the only time you'll ever get ice," but it's messed up. And then you think, what was it, like Wolverine obviously is hooking up with Storm in here, but she's in. Wolverine apparently put a danger room in the showers, and he said that it makes more sense because it's more of an everyday thing or whatever. And she tells him to turn on the showers, and she gets all naked. So you're like, oh my god, but he has her. She has him cut her hair into the mohawk from the '80s. So now Storm is rocking the 1980s mohawk that she had, which was interesting. I mean, I kind of like the Storm from the '90s, which is kind of like this one, but the mohawk one was kind of cool. So it wasn't bad. And then this that guy Quentin Guire or whatever the hell his name is, Kid Omega they call him, was hitting on the young Jean Grey. Which brings us to Uncanny X-Force #1. I kind of wanted to hate this one because I'm like, it's gonna suck ass, but it was actually pretty cool. As you can see, Storm's got her mohawk, and it's got Spiral, Psylocke, Puck, Phantom X, and Bishop shows up. Which I don't know what happened to Bishop. I forgot how that goes. I don't remember. I don't think I have any of the stories. Because I'm reading something. He betrayed the XMen, and he gets sent far, far into the future, and now he shows up. So I don't know if he's a good guy or a bad guy. I mean, he's not the Bishop I remember. The Bishop I remember was the one from the '90s. You know, had the long, like mullet kind of thing, and but whatever. But anyway, Psylocke can't stand Spiral for obvious reasons, and tries to kill her. And apparently she's got something to do with like some kind of new drug that makes you belong to everything or whatever it is. And the crazy thing that they have in here is this Phantom X character who was 3 brains locked up in one body. When they got rid of them in like the previous Uncanny X-Force, they separated them. One brain was in a girl body, one brain was in a regular body, and one brain was like, I guess, like the evil version. And it's crazy because at the end of this thing, it's one of those holy shit meters where you're like, oh god. The good guy and the good girl of Phantom X were robbing something, whatever, and they turn around and they start making out. It's like, hello, you're like the same That's just creepy. But I'm interested to see how the second one goes. Moving on to Deadpool #4. This thing, it's just really, really funny. And one of the best parts of this entire book is not only when he's rumbling, before he rumbles with Lincoln, they have like, he's like, oh, we're gonna might as well, I have a lot of presidents to kill and not many pages to do it in, we're gonna have to do a montage, and he tells you to listen to a certain song from Pantera. He's like, it's the best song to have when you're reading this montage. It was friggin' funny. And then like, he's in the ring with Abraham Lincoln, and it's in like a octagon kind of cage thing like they did with the XMen movie, and he asks if he ever put a Canadian hairy baby in it's the whole thing, like a reference to Wolverine. It's just funny as hell. So this I really liked. And this one was really interesting. This is Deadpool Illustrated #1. This thing, I didn't know what to expect with this thing, but oh man, this starts up right after the Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe. This is like the thing after it, and he's like, oh, I killed everybody, maybe I can finally kill myself, and, you know, I think I've earned that, and he tries to shoot himself, it doesn't do anything, and he figures out, he has all the evil mad scientists in the Baxter building, and they said, oh, you know, we traced everything back to this one Earth. If you claim we're not real, then this is what you'd have to do to destroy us and destroy yourself and all this stuff. So the mad thinker sends them into, I guess, our reality, but our fairy tales or our stories, because he says that if you destroy these stories, he's like, you destroy the ideas for comic books or whatever it is. So he takes down Moby Dick, he takes down Don Quixote, Ishmael, like just wipes him out, and I'm like, oh man, it was funny as hell, it really was. Gotta give them credit. Oh man. Alright, the Avengers #3, I believe, yes. Hairball. This one was interesting. This is the continuation with the whole I forget what the guy's called, but he's like a god of creation, and he's the god of destruction, and there's the other robotic looking thing and whatever. And Captain America kind of shows up just when they're about to, I guess, enlist Thor or whatever it is, because the guy's making like this perfect human to rule the world. And Captain America shows up, and Tony Stark's like, I told you to bring everybody. He's like, I did, and he snaps his fingers, and this portal opens up, and everybody comes out and starts kicking ass. And it's just a pretty good book. I mean, then towards the end, what the hell was her name? Captain Marvel, who used to be called Photon, then became Captain Marvel after the Captain Marvel guy died, is now Captain Universe, and the gods that were trying to destroy everything recognize her as Captain Universe, and she's kind of like lets Captain Universe kind of take, like, the powers kind of take her over for a little bit, and they stop doing it in their tracks, like all the fighting, they're like, oh my god, it's you, it's the universe, and the universe demands that we stop, and all this like stuff, which is a weird way to end it. And then Captain America's like, you can do whatever you want with Mars, but leave Earth alone, and and then it goes from there. But not a bad book. A+X number 4. This was crazy. Spider-Man and Beast basically wind up in like this futuristic alternate timeline kind of thing. Hairball. Sorry about that. My throat's been messing with me lately, and it's just like, Anyway, they're in this alternate timeline of a future Earth or whatever, and there's zombies everywhere, and I'm like, oh man, it's a Marvel zombie thing. And then you find out that just when they're about to get their ass kicked, these group of creatures that look just like Beast save them and think he's the chosen one, because they say he's the original and he's the one who created all this and whole big thing. And then they throw Spider-Man in like this arena where he's fighting this extremely large, gigantic cat like creature. And he's like, nice kitty, Mr. Mittens. He's like, Mr. Mittens, and it's crazy. And then Beast is, this woman Beast is trying to nail him. And he's like, I'm spoken for, I'm this. And she's like, oh, it's time to rock, And I was like, all right, this is getting crazy. But it was interesting. And then they had the other story was Captain America and that Kid Omega kid. Which was, wasn't all that great. Like, Captain America brings him along to like a safe house of AIM or something like that, and says he wants him along just in case somebody tries to booby trap his mind, and he's kind of like up yours, and he tries to get in Steve Rogers' mind, and then you see a giant shield drop down, and he's like, you want to try to get my mind? He's like, good luck. And then later on he lets him in and says he trusts him. Anyway, moving on to last but not least of my review, Uncanny Avengers number 3. Friggin' rocked. I love this shit. One of the things I really like about this comic is the fact that they kind of put everybody in their oldish costume. Like Havoc, if you can see it, has his old black and white costume, which used to have the bunny ears, but then they just made it, rather than stick it out, they made it part of the thing that just goes over, which is cool. And then Rogue, they gave her old green hooded costume, which is just cool. I just think it's interesting they're kind of doing a throwback. But anyway, Red Skull obviously has Professor X's mind now, his powers and all that stuff, and he convinces, which I'm not really 100% clear on, but he convinces New York that mutants are evil and you got to destroy them and get them before they get you. And the thing I'm not clear on is it looks like he's like obviously hypnotizing them, telling them to go kill everybody, whatever it is. But he keeps saying, like, oh, you can see their X gene, you know who's a mutant, So I don't know if he's projecting Xavier's ability to see mutants, like when he uses Cerebro to find out who's a mutant, who's not. Or he's just using that, like, oh, just go kill these guys because they're mutants, kind of thing. But it was interesting, it was a good thing. And then Thor comes down and starts kicking ass, and then they wind up getting Thor on their side, on Red Skull's side, by this guy, can't remember his name, Joe something, like, Casual Joe, I don't know what the hell he's called, but he kind of hypnotizes Thor, so now Thor is on the Red Skull side, and that's pretty much where it ends. So, but it looks kind of interesting. I mean, not kind of, it was interesting, and I'm actually really looking forward to number 4, which surprising enough, this is the one that's coming out like monthly, whereas everything else is coming out weekly or bi-weekly. Which brings me into kind of a thing, which is not really a rant, but I've said it before, just it kind of gets to me in a way, but I just think it's kind of I guess, stupid. The fact that, I mean, I really do enjoy the Uncanny Avengers. I think it's cool because it's something different. It's a different kind of group. Even though Wolverine's like on every freaking team known to man. But they have that. Then they have the new Avengers. They have the regular Avengers. They have another Avengers coming out. They have the Dark Avengers. They have the Secret Avengers. It's like, how many Avengers books do you need? The same thing with X-Men. X-Men Legacy, X-Men, Wolverine and the X-Men, Uncanny X-Force, Uncanny X-Men. It's just like Cable. It's like, oh my god. It's like, how many titles of the same thing are you putting out, Marvel? It's like, then you got the FF, which is the Future Foundation, and then the Fantastic Four, which is, technically different, but it's technically the same. And it's like, holy shit. It's like, how many, I mean, literally, how many of the same title are you going to have? It just, that's what gets me. I'm just kind of like, it's like too much. It's like an overkill. And a lot of my friends were saying the same thing, like, especially Wolverine, as much as everyone loves Wolverine, he's just everywhere. He's in everything. He's in X-Force. He's in, or was, X-Men. He's in this. He's in the Avengers. He's in the Uncanny Avengers. He's in that. It's like, Jesus. Relax. Put him in one thing and let's call it a day. Just put him back in the X-Men and, that's it. But he is kind of cool in the Uncanny Avengers. But that's just me. A little bit of a rant. That will do it for this extremely long video. Hope everyone enjoyed it. I'm actually going through my comics, as you can kind of see back there, sorting them, putting all the new stuff away. I've been trying to keep with my 2013 resolution, get everything organized, keep it organized, and I kind of slacked a little because I got so much stuff in the mail at one time. I'm like, oh my god, I have like my to read pile, then I have my red pile, and then I have, put this away pile, and bag and board this pile, and I'm like, oh man, then I got to make a new, box for this, and I got 2 new empty boxes, and they're already half full. I'm like, oh my god. Well, one is completely full, the other one is half full, so I'm like, oh man, I got a large amount of comics. And I'm trying not to buy boxes because I was gonna wait, because eventually when I move, I wanted to get those drawer boxes, get a whole bunch of those, and just make my life a hell of a lot easier. But I'm stuck. I'm like, oh my god, I have so many comics, especially with Amazing Spider-Man. I've been buying so many Amazing Spider-Mans to try to fill up my collection, or at least put a dent in it, that I was like, oh man, I had one long box of Amazing Spider-Man, and then I had 2 short boxes that were the continuation. Now I have 2 long boxes, 2 long boxes of Amazing Spider-Man and 2 short boxes of Amazing Spider-Man. So I'm like, oh man. But it's all unorganized, so now I gotta reorganize, and I guarantee when I organize it, I'll probably have like 1 long box and 2.5 boxes of the short one. So I just kind of like, oh, Amazing Spider-Man, here you go. Yeah. But anyway, I'm rambling. I think that was everything. Yeah. Oh man, I almost forgot. Wow, the one question I had gotten. I write it down. I even skip over it. I'm like, oh, duh. I had answered this before. I really don't even remember what the hell video it was, so I might as well answer it again. Somebody had asked me, which it was nobody that had subscribed to me or whatever, just a random thing. I guess somebody watches the show, which is cool, that doesn't have their own channel, which is fine. The question was it was in a weird, I guess, way of asking it. What is the difference between you getting a great condition comic over a low grade condition comic? Why would you choose the low grade over a better condition one? That's pretty much the sum of it. Kind of the same thing. Like I said, I mentioned I can't remember what the hell video it was, but like I said, I'll do it over. It all comes down to money. That's what it really comes down to. What you can afford, basically. I mean, granted, like a lot of comics I have, I'd love to have them in higher grades, but it just came down to price, really. I mean, I have Incredible Hulk 181, which is a 1.8, which I'm not gonna lie. Obviously, it's great. It's 1.8. It's a really low grade, but the reason I have it is because it's what I could afford, and it's one of those holy grail comics. And granted, it's not in the best of shape, but the cover is actually in really good shape, other than like a little smudge over the Hulk. But the cover is in great shape. It's it's graded. I don't have to worry about doing that or anything. And eventually, I'll probably just go on my wall. But the reason I got that over a higher grade one is I just couldn't afford a high grade one, and that's pretty much the reason I got the low grade. just to have it in my collection, just to be like, hey, you know what? I have an Incredible Hulk 181. Granted, again, it's not in the best of shape, but I still have it. That's kind of the point. And Hero Hunter 81 summed it up well as in his key issue videos. You can always upgrade down the line. You can always try to get a better grade book of what you have. Granted, Incredible Hulk 181, a decent grade is up there. It really is up there. And like I said, would I want to have a better copy? Hell yeah, I'd love a better copy than that. What I have, but I'm happy with what I have as well. Recently, well, actually not recently. It was a year ago when I had my contest. I was giving away Incredible Hulk 181 1.8 CGC because I was actually getting a much higher grade CGC from a friend of mine who was actually getting rid of it, and he was selling it really dirt cheap. And it was, I think it was an 8.0, which is actually a really good grade. And I think like that goes for a couple thousand or something like that, or close to it. And he wanted $250 for it. And I was like, hell yeah! I was like, I'll buy it. I was like, can you give me a day or two? And he's like, yeah, no problem. He's like, I figured you'd want it, and he's like, and I'll give you obviously a good price. Like, I'll even give it to you for $200. He's like, I just really need the money, and I gotta move stuff. And I'm like, hey, no problem. And the day I went to pick it up, he decided not to sell it. I'm like, well, I don't blame you. I don't blame you. So I was like, I wasn't pissed off at him at all. I flat out told him, I was like, I don't blame you at all, man. I was like, it's a good grade. And I was like, I'm glad I have mine. And I was like, yours is a much better copy. But, I was like, I wouldn't sell it. And I was like, I wasn't going to say anything. I was like, because I was getting a good deal. So he's like, yeah, I know. He's like, but, I changed my mind. And I was like, it's no problem. So I'm kind of glad I didn't get rid of my Incredible 181. But anyway, that will do that. Hopefully it answered the question in a roundabout sort of way. Again, what's the difference between getting low grade and high grade? Just what you're willing to pay and what you can afford for stuff. Like I said, if I can afford higher grade stuff, I'll get them when I can, as long as I'm getting a good deal on them. Like, I don't want to overpay for something like, say like you got Amazing Spider-Man #1 and, it's in rough shape, and, then you find an upgraded one, but the guy wants like $30,000. You're like, no. Anyway, if you like what you see, please hit the like button. If you really like what you see, hit the subscribe button. Comment away, question away. I don't mind answering all that stuff. And it's not the size of your man cave that matters. It's what you have in it. Later.